All right, let's go ahead and get started. Thank you all so much for joining today's webinar, Powering the Work from Anywhere World with ControlUp. I'm Lisa Malachevsky. I'm one of the field marketing managers here at ControlUp, and I'm so excited to be moderating this webinar today. We are going to be covering how ControlUp powers the work from anywhere world, as well as taking a peek into the newest version of ControlUp that features integrations with Microsoft Azure, Azure Virtual Desktop, and ControlUp Remote DX, all to help you deliver the best employee experience possible. So just a couple of quick housekeeping things to cover before we get started. This webinar is going to be recorded, so if you'd like to rewatch or share, it'll be posted on our website by next week. And also, if you have any questions at all, please type them into the question box in your control panel, and we will address any and all of your questions at the end of the webinar. Lastly, we will be raffling off the highly coveted Raspberry Pi 4 at the end of the hour, so make sure that you're here if your name is called. Now, without further ado, I'm going to turn this over to Richard Parnell, who is our lead sales engineer for the APAC region, and he is a great webinar deliverer.
Thank you very much, Lisa, and welcome everybody to our first APAC ControlUp webinar for the year. We're really excited to be able to bring you the reasons why we're powering the work from anywhere world. As Lisa mentioned, I'm Richard Parnell. I've been with ControlUp just under a year now, heading up the APAC systems and sales engineering group. With me as the panelist, we also have Trevor Taylor, who is our head of sales for APJ as well. And he'll be here to answer some questions as we go. So without further ado, let me walk you through how we're going to power the anywhere world. So one of the biggest things going on right now around the world is this new imperative around business need for remote work, for people to be able to work from home, to have that flexibility within their working styles, due to the current circumstances the world finds itself in. And so as part of our mission within ControlUp, we are here to support all those different options and capabilities around this remote working initiative that businesses have to drive today. That distributed workforce means that there's this ever-changing complexity within how IT has to look after the digital employee experience around endpoints, around the infrastructure, things like VDI and published applications from those vendors as well. So it's becoming much, much harder to get that complete visibility, to understand the unknowns within the IT sphere now, and deliver that experience that users are expecting and have always had, from their previous methods of accessing their work. And trust me when I say this, the employee experience is the thing that matters most. They are the people who, ultimately at the end of the day, are having to do their jobs, work from, various locations, various device types, various methodologies such as, thin client to VDI or server-based computing, or whether it's SaaS and web-based applications that they use. All of that becomes what we call the employee experience, or the digital employee experience, and their opinions and their sentiments towards the kinds of experiences they receive is what drives a lot of the decision making in the organizations as well. What are the applications we need to be using? How complex are the systems we've got right now? What's our support tools? What are our mechanisms for delivering the work and the work style that user needs to do their job? It ultimately leads to a different kind of culture. And it ultimately leads to different kinds of leaderships that come out during these times, a different level of trust. So being able to have that level of trust that people are working correctly in the way that the organization needs them to be, and an organizational trust around how IT is going to ensure that there aren't outages, there aren't downtimes within the user's daily rituals of work, so that they can actually fulfill upon that cultural trust. The other thing about this is the environment's changing. Some people are now completely work from home or work from anywhere. Other people are in that hybrid mode where they've got some days in an office and some days outside of the office. The commutes are different. People are not necessarily taking public transport, they're driving. So where they're driving to and parking and actually conducting work has all changed over the last couple of years. And for us as an organization, when you mix the three pieces of the puzzle here, that environment element, that's been something on the radar for quite some time, where you might give a managed device, or you might give different office locations through branches, or even the work from home methodology. When you start mixing that with the kinds of work and the kinds of access to VDI and physical endpoints, unified comms, all those kind of things, you now have such a variable mix of connectivity types, of different options that the user can undertake in order to achieve what they need to do on a day-to-day work schedule. So the question has to be asked, and should be asked regularly for a lot of organizations: is remote work a strength in your organization, or is it actually seen as a weakness by the people who have to engage with it and work with it? And that also includes IT, who have to look after it and have to manage it and monitor it. So it's a question we ask often, and it's a question I'll put out there to you for, to put back into our chat as a response. But is remote work something that your organization sees as a strength, or is it still somewhere around that, weakness to mid-strength range, because really it's been thrust upon you, or you've had to adapt in ways that aren't as comfortable as doing it with a timely project, or those kind of things? We'd love to hear your answers. Please feed them through in the chat so we can have a view of what your world looks like as well. So how do we power the work from anywhere world? Well, it's a pretty easy one. So first and foremost, ControlUp has a number of fan base around the world, as we call them, within our customer space, who have already gone and engaged our digital employee experience capabilities to look after their employees, to look after those experiences, to look after IT's experience with how they handle this work from anywhere. We have a lot of strategic partners. We mentioned VMware there. We have a lot of partnerships around the world which are helping us drive better integrations, better visibility, better experiences because of that, around not just VDI, but also in the endpoint space with iGel and HP and companies like that around their thin clients or their laptops, Macs, those kind of things. We are expanding our footprint globally as we grow as well as an organization. It mentions offices in the US, Europe, and Israel, but we actually have an office here in APAC in Australia as well now. So we're super excited about our expansion. We're super excited about how we're growing as an organization to support these customers. So there's a lot of ways that we empower IT teams to make sure that they're able to support this work from anywhere initiatives, be more flexible, have more reliable IT within the organization, whether it's through our metrics, or whether it's through our endpoint technologies, whether it's through our synthetic monitoring capabilities. All of these pieces of the puzzle are how we empower IT. Now, the core of that, though, comes really down to these three things, which is optimizing remote environments, right? One of the biggest challenges around the work from anywhere is that people have moved away from where the network connectivity is. They've moved away from the physical desks and chairs that were sitting in the office that were connected nicely to the infrastructure. So we're able to optimize those remote environments. We're able to optimize the way in which employees leverage those remote environments, and to give them that experience of a sense of ownership over that experience as well, because through our technologies, we can support them before they even know they need to be supported. And I'll go into more of that in a bit. We need to prevent user downtime. Any user who has downtime, any person who is not working to their capacity in this new world, is time and money and an unhappy employee. Employees want to be able to do their job. They crave to be able to get into the applications, get into the environments they need, to simply do the job that they're paid to do. And from an IT perspective, time is also money there, and time is effort as well. And we need to be able to help IT and the organization resolve issues faster, and if possible, resolve them before they're even known to the users that are out there. So between these three areas, we really do make it much more reliable for IT to see everything that's going on. We make it far more flexible for users to choose the way that they're going to connect into the resources and do their job. And we're going to make it more reliable because you'll have far less downtime with applications, infrastructure, and users as a whole. This is a quick example of probably sums up all the scenarios that really are coming around within this work from anywhere world. You know, you've got users at home, they're on certain devices. You've got IT support people who are constantly on the phones with them, supporting their devices, supporting their VDI infrastructures or their remote working capabilities through, you know, VPNs and other tools. And it's really about simplifying all this, making it easier for the IT individual or the support virtual expert to solve these problems while they've got the person on the phone, to identify the root causes of these problems before they even log support tickets and make the phone call, to automate remediations of environments so that they can improve on the fly, repair on the fly, and support those environments without user intervention or IT intervention at all. These are the things that we are delivering today, and we've delivered for a long, long time. And what I'm going to show you today, and what I want to take you through, is some of the new innovations we've delivered recently. Some of the new innovations we'll be delivering in the early parts of this year around our new 8.6 release, which is going to become GA very, very soon. So without further ado, this is the architecture that we're talking about now. All right, so ControlUp has grown over the last few years, you know, from being that root cause analytics and real-time data infrastructure and VDI company into a truly exciting digital employee experience management environment. So from our perspective, when we look at the world now, it's all about how do we drive a better employee experience? How do we, and that's at both ends of the picture, the end users as well as the IT employees. How can we help you optimize? How can we help you correlate? How can we help you remediate? And then ultimately, how do we help you automate all of these things in your environment so that you can deliver a better outcome across the board? It's about dealing with physical endpoints. You know, that's really, really important these days. Whether, you know, the user is, you know, what we call a fat client, and they've got everything local to the device and they're using internet only and those kinds of solutions, or even if they're connecting into remote solutions like RDS, you know, or Citrix or VMware or Microsoft, or whether or not they're using tools like unified communications, like Zoom and Teams and these things. We need to be able to make sure that the experiences across all those platforms is the best it can be at all times within the infrastructure. So this is what the true architecture behind it all looks like. There's really four platforms that we have that I'll take you through today. Our real-time DX and remote DX platform, our ControlUp Solve platform, Edge DX, which is all around about our endpoints, and then our Scout-based technology for looking at, you know, web and SaaS applications as well as synthetic monitoring. So I think we'll start with the real-time DX console and the remote DX features that we've got. So with that, I'll switch over to the environment. I'm hoping everybody can see my demonstration screen now. And what we have done recently within this is we've added a whole bunch of new capabilities which we never had before, which will be released within the 8.6 environment. So recently we added things like scheduling to our trigger capability. We've added other metrics capabilities that we haven't had before, but the biggest release that's coming is down through our cloud connectors here. You can see that I'm now connected to an Azure environment within the demonstration, and I can now see all the resource groups that are associated to that Azure connection. Now, this is really exciting for us. We've always had, AWS. We've always had our hypervisors. We've always had the ability to connect to the various EUC environments for end user computing like Citrix and VMware. But this really now opens up a whole new world of public cloud for us, and the various solutions that are driven upon that. So, it's a native Azure API connection that we're making. If I look into the connection settings, you can see that it's our tenant ID. We're pulling out all the subscription information. Hence why I can now go into the various resource groups that are out there. And what this now has the ability to do is provide us with a view specifically out to the Azure machines that we have out there, and we can collect Azure specific metrics around what's coming out of your subscription, what's coming out of your tenancy, what we can see from the various machines that are on there. So if I sort by the power state here, I can see a bunch of WVD or AVD machines that I have running. I can even see a Windows 11 machine that we have running in the environment. I can also now see all the individual metrics that are associated to Azure itself. So as we scroll along the different live data here, you can see we've got our Azure VM sizing. So these are your instances that are out in the Azure world. We've got the various virtual breakup of what those instances look like. We've got the disk information. We've got cost information. So this is really super important. This is all being pulled directly out of your tenancy, your subscription based upon your credentials. We're not having to manipulate this data. This is all based upon the agreements you've got set with Microsoft, the contracts that you've signed for the cost of your instances and your network and your disk and your storage and all those features and functions that go into that. And we're just giving you all that information in a really palatable way so that you can understand, whether or not you need to engage in power cycling or better power management within those environments. If your Azure world is connected to something like Horizon or Citrix out in those worlds, you're now getting real-time data around how that's performing, as well as the cost association. So if you're using those other tools, you can look at their power management, their power cycling to help you manage costs around, when should something run 24/7, when should something be running in a lesser state of timings, which is fantastic because this will help you then down the track. It will help you identify trends of costs. It'll help you understand planning and resource management out in that public cloud. And it will also help you understand cost management on a month-to-month basis as this information grows and as your environments grow. You'll have a much clearer picture of how you're going to associate that. Obviously, we then have all the relevant break fix information around CPU metrics, memory, disk performance, all the regular metrics that everybody associates with how well ControlUp does for them. But what I really wanted to do simply bring out today was how much specific Azure information that we have built into this. Now that we have access to the APIs, now that we have access to the connections, and we can bring all that data the same way we bring EUC or we bring hypervisors, we can bring all this data into view for you. You can then start making decisions. You can then start looking at root cause analysis and troubleshooting and performance metrics alongside what the experience that environment up in Azure is actually delivering out to people. So you can see there's probably around 40 something columns of data here. A lot of metadata pulled directly out of the images, out of the instances, out of the subscription. And this is only going to grow over time, right? So these native metrics are really important for us to help you grow the different capabilities around what we can do with script-based actions, for instance, what we can do around the management piece. So if I right click here, I can go to my cloud management directly within here. I can reapply the Azure machine. I can start, stop. I can manage this VM without having to open up the additional consoles. Same way that we do this for other technologies. We're now doing this for Azure in how we can now integrate directly through the APIs into that management layer, help you, make those choices, execute those administrative tasks, as well as integrate that then into things like our script-based actions, our triggers and alerts and thresholds, making sure that you're getting the same experience that you would normally get in an on-prem world of your infrastructure from outside in the Azure infrastructure. So we're really excited about this. Obviously, that then also leads to things like Remote DX, because Remote DX, is an extension of the Citrix client and VMware client at the moment. We read all the client data coming through those protocols when you're making your VDI sessions and connections. We're going to be obviously supporting things like AVD and RDS workloads moving forward, because it makes sense that we will support those protocols and those clients to then increase the volume of metrics, increase the data that you've got visibility on around not just the machines that I've showed you today, but then also the sessions, right? So we want to be able to go from the hosts, your Azure subscription, we want to be able to feed those machines. And more importantly, we want to be able to understand what the user session looks like. So we'll be able to support that Remote DX enhancement, support the AVD protocol, RDS protocols for RDP and SXS moving forward, and expand, as I said, that client metrics into, what is their CPU load? What is the ISP they're coming through? What do the gateway latencies look like that they're coming through? And give you that end-to-end visibility from that perspective. Some of the other features that are coming within this as well, we did some trigger enhancements recently. As I said, we added scheduling. We're now expanding that trigger capability within the schedules. So if we open up our triggers here, for those who don't quite know what I'm talking about here, I have a schedule that I can set. So I can set a daily routine or a daily execution of a trigger or an action when I need to within the capabilities of the console, to then go looking and executing that action at a certain time of day. Right now, we've got things like the recurring every single day, or recurring, you need to set the number if you want to recur weekly. We're going to expand these timing options quite considerably as we go forward, to give you more granular control over the scope of the triggers, when they execute, how often they execute. Also things like where you can interact with. So right now we've got the drop list here of all the different views typically that you would see, machine, session, process, apps, the breakdowns into virtual logical disk and how you want to apply it against that. What if you could break down the folders? What if you could actually get down into a specific area of a machine that you wanted to record and deliver this from? We're looking into those capabilities at that granular scope as well. And then ultimately, the ability to export and import triggers. So if you've built really cool triggers and you want to define a library for yourself and back them up and do all those kind of things, we're looking at how we can export and import various triggers from within this mechanism out to a backup system or capability of just exporting them to XML files, whatever it might be within that. So again, just starting to expand on some of the releases we've had recently, expanding them into more capabilities. We're also expanding a lot of the integrations we have, not just with Azure, as I've shown earlier, but with our existing partnerships with VMware and Citrix. So, looking at VROPS management pack, adding additional Citrix PVS metrics, like including PVS targets versus PVS server connection metrics, so that they're separated in how we look at that. Script action enhancements, where we're actually passing triggers through. So if we go to our famous demo of looking at the logon durations within the users, one of the things we're able to do is our logon duration script. And if I pop that up, you'll see all the command line arguments that we can pass through. So now we're going to be able to have that enhancement to include parameter passing and also something we like called signed script execution to allow you greater capabilities within our script-based actions and allow you to create some funkier capabilities within this as well. So really excited about what's coming with real-time DX and remote DX from that perspective. I think it's really exciting for our Azure customers who we've been able to support simply just through our agents in the past. Well, now they'll have real integration into the management layers and be able to do a number of things that they have been asking us to do for quite a while in that front. So I'm just going to flip back real quick into here. So the next piece we want to look at is our Solve technology. Now, for those who are unaware of what Solve is our web-based platform that we have to allow you to see in real time the end-to-end visibility and the end-to-end picture as a whole within your environment, but also at the same time allowing you to drill down into the same detail that you see in real-time DX. And more importantly, it's actually delivered as a SaaS-based application. So there's no application you have to run. It's not an installable mechanism. It doesn't run like the console in your Windows environment. We take care of this for you as a service. And it allows you then to build out and design the way you want to view the information, because the dashboards themselves are completely, customizable. So if I flip over, this is our Solve console. You can see straight away the kinds of information that it's delivering, whether it be snapshot style information where we can see the number of hosts or the VM count or free space, active sessions, all those kinds of things. But also, what is the overall average health and performance looking like as a whole? So you can see, the next sections down are around your top fives, your percentage of criticals versus performing wells. And as we go down all the different kinds of widgets that we have, you can see many, many different kinds of graphs and interactions that we can see across the board within the dashboards. And they all become this knock-sock style of information gathering around all the different data metrics and data points that we have being fed out of our monitors up into the Solve environment. It's again is in real time, so it's around about the 5-second mark that all this data is updating on a regular basis, so that we can see at a glance what is going on in our world. Do we need to be doing something about any of the things we're seeing, or have we got things right? We don't always say the positives. It's always about the break, fix, and the issues. But essentially, everything is at your fingertips, the same way it is at the real-time console. It's just now being produced in a more customizable dashboard way. So from the dashboard perspective, I can go down to the various dashboards we've included. So now I'm looking at just a resource dashboard. What's my CPU? What do my hosts look like? What is the environment overall's health? How many critical situations do I find myself in? All those kind of things can be joined together. Here's a user experience dashboard, which just focuses on things like logon duration, user sessions, the health of sessions that are going on, applications and processes, and what they're doing at the moment. Or you can build your own fully customizable dashboard. So you can have your own dashboards as an administrator. And here's one I simply created earlier around networking. And now I can go in and add any kind of widget I want to this platform against any of the data metrics that we have across the board. So I can look at all the tree folders. I can look at the regular views we have. I could look at specific elements that I've got going on around folders and folder structures, desktop pools out of VMware, desktop groups and farms and connection servers, all these things that you might want to categorize your infrastructure into, drill down into the actual information itself as to the detail you want to look at in a particular graph or comparative graph for that matter. So choosing multiple items. So if I chose something like the net scalers, I could choose which net scaler I want to put a graph around. And then I have all the relevant metrics that go with that. I might choose my tree folder up the top, right? And then I can actually choose my environment. I can select any of the metrics that are going on in the entire environment. And you can see how many there are across the board. And then I can build my type of graph that I want, a gauge, a line, a bar chart, whatever it might be, a count. And the metrics will change to help you within this. This is one of the intelligence pieces behind this. Depending upon which visualization method you choose within the graphs, it'll also make sure that the data you can select for that type of graph will actually suit that type of graph that you're looking to do. So it's very intuitive, very easy. I highly recommend get in there, build out your dashboards, share them with people. Given the things we've been doing with real-time DX and remote DX around the Azure integrations and those kind of things, Solve is becoming an even more important platform for us because we're expanding our capabilities into things like Azure Cloud. We need to make sure we've got an ability to build that topology and map out all that infrastructure for you. So, in the real-time DX console, you typically have your left-hand side here. We still have all that. It still looks the same. I can access all of the various pieces that I've got, and I can set them as a focus within Solve as being my context of reference that I'm trying to drill into the information for. But a lot of the time, it's about identifying root cause problems. So as I go into my user sessions here, I can navigate the topology really, really quickly. I can navigate into any of the EUC setups that I have or the drop lists that I might want within the machines, and I can filter. I can do all those wonderful things. The other thing is we're starting to integrate a number of the functionalities that you would normally see in the real-time console into Solve as well. So one of the things we want to be able to do is integrate Solve into technologies like Edge DX. So simply going down to my user here, I can identify that they're active. I can look at all the metrics that you could look at before, but now I can also do right-click actions. So now I could actually take my view out of Solve and into Edge DX to have a look at what the endpoint device looks like as a physical endpoint within the Edge technologies. Some of the other pieces around that, in machines, for instance, one of the things we want to be able to do is jump straight into maybe historical reports. So like we do in the real-time console, where you're able to go up and click on a right click to go to the insights reports, we can do the same thing in Solve because we're actually integrating a number of the insight reports right now into the Solve console so that you've got the insight information, the historical data, the trends directly at your fingertips within the same console. And we're starting to make Solve the default front end, if that makes sense, for everything that you'll want to do with these technologies. So you can see here, we've got session activity reports already there. We've got count, we've got trends, statistics, those kind of things. And if I drilled into that machine that I was looking at, let's right click and I click on the historical report, you'll notice it takes me straight into the machine trends for that machine on that historical data. I can set my timings 24, 72, 1 week, 1 month, as you do in Insights today. So I can go straight from live data to historical data. That integration is critical when making decisions. We're looking at the information that's at hand around problems that are occurring. You want to make sure that you understand, is this an anomaly happening right now? I know how to remediate this, but let me see if there's been a bit of a trend behind this or a historical nature of this machine to behave this way. And maybe it's not just the machine, it's the setup of it, through the controllers. You could do that comparisons, or maybe it's just a one-off and we're not seeing these anomalies all the time. So I'll take care of it the way I would normally do with stopping processes or reboots or whatever the management tools that we need to do. The other piece to this is obviously this topology is contextual. So as I click on things, as I say, go into my user sessions here, and I click on an individual user, the topology completely changes based upon the context of everything going on and what I've clicked on and the information that we want to see. So now you can see I've gone from a general overview of the topology into this really dedicated, connected view of what this user is, what machine they're on, what processes they're running, what hosts they might be in, what data centers they might be connected to. So it's really, really critical that we maintain that context for you during the visibility of all this, so that we can make the simplification of root cause analysis. And you can see things like, if I go back up to the machine within this topology, I can now actually see that there's 2 users on here, and maybe it wasn't Steve that was causing the problem, even though he is the one with his read-write issues, but it may have been Jay Jordan who was causing that issue. So now I can drill into him very quickly and just make sure I don't lose context, make sure I've got all my navigation points in a row to make sure that I'm seeing the end-to-end visibility that I need to make those decisions. So super excited about where Solve's going. You know, I've talked about that expanded real-time topology and correlations, which I think is just fantastic. The integration into the historical data and reporting, you know, that's going to make life so much easier. You know, the ability to customize the views within those reports. So again, session activity, I can go over to different views. I can look at the activity. I can look at resource consumption, or the UX, which is user experience, and see what all that looks like in a very much faster way, in a simpler method. It opens itself up as a platform for, you know, future abilities to you know, add more reports, to get more detailed information, to do better filtering within this as well, and link it back to the troubleshooting. That's the really big thing here within that. We're making usability enhancements. Obviously, we're bringing all the technologies into this single view within Solve. We're bringing in you know, centralized audit logs if we can, and we're just making it a much easier single pane of glass for everybody to access within that. So that's where we are with Solve. Super excited about what we're doing there. I think it's a fantastic technology, and it will only keep growing and keep expanding into inclusion into things like script-based actions and triggers and more of those elements that come from the real-time DX world into the Solve platform. So, as I said, that's Solve. It's one of those technologies that, you know, I think everybody understands that will become the benchmark in this space for organizations. The next one I wanted to touch upon is probably the youngest member of the family in terms of technologies, with our purchase of the company about 18 months ago now. And that's our Edge DX endpoint analysis capability. This is an exciting space because it allows you to not just look after the endpoint device in terms of Windows, Macs, Linux, you know, iGels, those kinds of physical endpoints, but it's real time. So it means that, you know, when users have problems out of those endpoints, you've really got an instant view of what is going on right now. It's not an average of, you know, 5 minutes ago or 10 minutes ago or 30 minutes ago, where the problem may have occurred, it may have spiked, but there's no real visibility of it once you actually get in there to look at what the user's complaining about. And it's also giving you a more holistic understanding around what that endpoint is experiencing with the workload that's being applied to it. So it's delivered as a SaaS application within our world. It's a small agent that goes onto the various endpoints. It's to capture this data in real time. One of the great things about that agent is from a support mechanism, you could actually give that to somebody in real time while you're having a call with them. They click on the link, they download the agent. It doesn't require a reboot, which means it can start capturing data while you're on the call with them. They can approve the install. They can do all those things in a BYOD world. But it just gives you, as an organization, the view and the visibility you need to be able to support them better than just information being shared over a phone by potentially a non-technical person to a technical person. So let's have a look at what Edge DX looks like. I love this technology. We use it every single day. So it's based in the Solve console. We've got a dashboard here. And immediately, one of the things that should stand out is we are looking at how Edge DX's console shares similar characteristics to the Solve console and the various aspects of the widgets and information that we can deliver that we do today within Solve. we want to make sure we keep that look and feel. We want to make sure we maintain that usability of the interface. And so we're looking at ways that we incorporate, and integrate between the two platforms so that we have a cohesive set of dashboards and customization capabilities between the two of them. Straight away, you can see a whole bunch of information where people are through Google and Google Maps and things like that. You can set date ranges. You can have a look at across the board what is going on for different metrics of devices, how many are online, how many alerts you're receiving, what the network strengths and all those kind of things. We can look at user experiences within that. So again, simplifying the interface, making it simple to navigate, to get to the data that's important, to help you resolve the problems or understand the visibility that you've got, good or bad, within that. And also then obviously, connectivity is important. Where are the latency problems? Which devices are having them? Are there any service providers that are having that information? So you can see a whole gamut of information here to drill into. Now, the core of this though is supporting the endpoint devices. So as I said, we support Windows, Mac, Linux, iGel devices, HP Thin Pros with certain versions. And you can see them all listed here. We can see their performance that's going on in a snapshot. We can customize those columns. We can show agent information as well. So if you wanted to understand what versions you're running of the ControlUp Edge DX agent, you can show that in the columns as well. If I select a particular device, I can then start drilling into the individual user level and device level information. So you can see we have a host of information here, right? This is key to understanding whether or not the endpoint is having an issue based upon certain loads, the application types. One of the things, as you all are very much aware within this, users don't give you all the information when you're talking to them and trying to resolve their issues. They will tell you about the issue. They will tell you that they were running the corporate application in this way. They don't tell you they're running Netflix in the background at 4K. They don't tell you that their kids are on the same network gaming and destroying the bandwidth because they're all at home from school or whatever it might be. So it's important that we can access that information in a very non-intrusive way. We don't capture user information and things like that within this. But we can actually drill down into what are the live items around processes, installed apps, missing patches, device event logs. And not only can we view this information, but we can actually do things about it, which is the key behind why real-time DX has been so successful and how we've supported customers across the board, and why this technology was such a great fit for us, because we've got built-in assistance capabilities. We can remote shadow, remote control, send messages. We can work with the user remotely. And we can also send actionable commands. So just like with the script-based actions, we can actually send command line, PowerShell, Bash scripts to Macs, Python to Linux, those kinds of capabilities to allow us to understand more what's going on at the device. And more importantly, we don't have to train the user at the other end of the phone call. So when we get to that support call, we've got them on the line like we had in the picture, just instructing them to do things like a simple speed test so you can understand what the network connectivity is looking like between them and a certain location. That's really important because they may not know how to do that. So our ability to allow you to send an action out to the end user via the agent, which they can also approve. So they can have the pop-up and say, yes, I approve to run this action, is really critical to being able to support that device, being able to remediate elements to that device that you see as part of the anomaly or part of the root cause analysis of why they're having a poor experience. So this is critical as part of this whole mechanism. And it's kind of the part a lot of organizations kind of gloss over a little bit. They want the data, they want the visibility, they want the reports, and by all means, we can have as many reports as you want through Insights and EdgeDX and Solve. But if you can't resolve the problem at those endpoints, and that's a big challenge with remote working, then it's not much good to you to have all this data, and it's not much good for you to run all these reports and make decisions around whether or not laptop fleets need to be replaced, or because they're coming end of life, or you need to do other things. None of that matters if you cannot resolve the issues at the endpoint with the user and build that great experience, not only with the technology that they're using, but also with the mechanisms you have to support them and to help them. That's part of the experience. That's part of what DEX is for the end user, is how is their engagement with IT? How is their engagement with the technology? How is their engagement with work overall? And we're going to get that feedback from them, right? So we're going to be able to get user sentiment collections and reportings going on with surveys and NPS and all those kind of things moving forward. We're going to incorporate unified communications monitoring for Zoom and Teams within this, so that we can actually understand and manage what their experience with UC is around that. So, how many times have users had issues and they don't even realize that they simply haven't unmuted a mic, but they can't figure it out because they get flustered and they're under pressure within the session. Wouldn't it be nice if a support person could do that for them? They can instantly just see that the microphone isn't muted and unmute it for them from the back end when they know they should be presenting, or their protocol is not behaving the same way inside the VDI or on their endpoint. How do you then make sure that they're routed correctly and you've got the mapped topology of the network capabilities within this? So how do we map that whole end-to-end of the application stream and the network that goes with that? SaaS and web application real-time monitoring is another thing we're looking into as well. How do we get more data out of those? How do we do simple things like usability? A white screen is not always the most easy thing to look at on a regular basis. So how do we improve it with things like dark mode, or dashboard improvements around the kinds of widgets and the animation that they have within that as well. So all of these things are coming to Edge DX in the very near future around device experience scores, user sentiment, unified communications, and we're really, really excited because this is kind of we've done the 1.0 integration into the platform. We've got our customers on board with this, and now we're going to expand into those areas that they feel that, and we feel that are the missing pieces to making this the best tool on the planet for looking after digital experience. So that's Edge DX. I know we've got about 10 minutes left, so I'm going to just jump back really quickly into our final guy, and this is our ControlUp Scout Bees. And we've got some really exciting stuff to go with Scout Bees, because Scout Bees, as those who know, is one of those tools that is highly underrated, but it does so much for an organization in making sure that they can understand where their outages are from branches or users, or the technologies themselves that everybody's connecting to for work, and what their performances look like. Are they up? Are they down? Are they performing well? And building alert systems and policies and remediations around that as well, not just doing a step-by-step test or a scripted login procedure. This is all about adding this to the analytics capabilities that we have in real time, so that you are best notified and kept abreast of all the different performance metrics that are out there around the applications you're connecting to, the EUC environments you're connecting to, what your connectivities look like from different locations around the globe, or different user environments that you're connecting to. A great example of this, go look up Rory Monahan on Twitter. He's one of our guys. He was one of the first to spot the Office 365 outage the other week. And he actually brought it to the world's attention that it wasn't a complete outage. There were still parts of the world that could run Office 365, and we had the Scout Beast test to showcase which areas of the world, and we mapped it for them to showcase that there were big outages, but it didn't absolutely affect everybody, and we could paint that picture for everybody to see that. So I'll just flip back. We'll go into Scout Bees. over here, and I'll talk about a couple of the integrations that we've got very quickly. So we're looking at the main console. You can see all the tests that we've got running. One of the recent things we did with ScoutBees is we added an integration. We've had an integration to ServiceNow for a little while here within here. So you can come into here, you can add an integration and select a various service. So we've had the ServiceNow one for a little while. We've recently added the Microsoft Teams because a lot of our customers were telling us they use Teams chats, the support mechanisms, as well as their ability to send the data directly into a team environment that more than one particular person on call would then be able to see in an instance around the alert policies and those kind of things. So, you know, it's a simple integration that we did, but it's making a big difference with these integrations to how you set up your alerts, how you set up your policies, where you send the data, and those kind of things within ScoutBees on a day-to-day basis when you're running these tests, which is super exciting. Some of the things that we're looking to bring to this, you know, we've had Scouts for a while where you could come in and you could test straight HTTP. So you would typically point that to your web and SaaS application. We're now building specific application templates for this. So for SaaS and IaaS and these kinds of environments, you know, where you want to target a specific application type with a little bit more capability or a little bit more data or a little bit more outcome of the data. You know, simple things like, you know, obviously Teams and OneDrives and Exchange Onlines and Outlook web accesses and Google Gmails and all those kinds of applications that are really packed full of data when you're connecting to them and may even, you know, connect in different ways. This is where we're going to start building these application templates. More SaaS and web performance testing mechanisms. You know, this is one of the things that ScoutBees does really, really well for us is around the web and SaaS application data gathering and testing, and we're going to enhance the performance testing capabilities even further moving forward. Also, things like transaction-based flows within that, right? For SaaS and web applications go hand in hand, and potentially down the track, things like client-side synthetic testing, where you've got this mini hive mentality out of the endpoint that can run regular tests for you from your home network or whatever it might be that around what a particular user needs to connect to. So although we, you know, recently also added the ability to choose multiple hives to send a singular Scout to, think about putting that Scout onto an endpoint for a user and running those tests from the end user's perspective as well. Yeah, network path visualizations for EUC and HTTP Scouts will be very, very useful. So more than just the handshake, the TLS and the timings of all those, you know, this is the path it took to actually get there. So we're coming to the end of time. You know, we've got so many exciting new things coming this year for all of our customers and our partners moving forward. And with that, I'll hand it back to you, Lisa, to see if we've got any questions.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Richard. That was extremely informative. It looks like we have just a couple of questions over here. And the first one we've got is, will Remote DX support Microsoft RDS in the future?
So just repeat that one for me again, Lisa.
That was, will Remote DX support Microsoft RDS in the future?
Yeah, absolutely. And, you know, it's one of those parts of the AVD integration that I spoke about with the real-time DX and Solve. As we bring more of that Azure world and AVD world into what we're capable of delivering, Remote DX will expand to be able to support the Microsoft clients to be able to give you then client-side data within this from the Remote DX capability and paint that picture that we've had with Remote DX for a while, where we have that ability to understand the endpoint, their first hop, their Wi-Fi connectivity. Yeah, we'll be able to, you know, grab that information from Microsoft and AVD moving forward.
Awesome. And then our next question here is, does the Azure integration allow you to manage the VMs from the console?
Yeah, absolutely. I showed it very briefly where I could right click on the individual machines. I could go down to my cloud management. Right now, this is one of the release candidates that you're seeing today of the 8.6 technology. That cloud management ability will just expand over time. Now that we've got those APIs, now that we're working with the likes of Horizon DAS moving forward to make sure we've got their APIs when they open up, we're going to have a complete management layer of interaction that we've never had before. So watch that right click, look for that cloud management, and you'll start to see more and more of those tools and more of the script-based actions focused around what you can do in that space, which is great.
Great. And then can you, the last question we have here is, can you view the cost of the Azure VMs?
Yeah,
which I know is a big thing.
Yeah, absolutely. And public cloud cost as a whole is a big thing for organizations to undertake. And having that visibility is really super important because not only are you trying to manage budgets and all those kind of things, but as I showed, we've got that data metric coming directly out of your subscription. So the costs in there are not estimations, they're not averages, they're not guesses against RRP or things like that. They're straight out of your subscription, straight out of your tenancy, which allows you to then grab that data, export that into a report going forward so that you can actually get a handle on that cost analysis that you want to do.
Great. That looks like that's all the questions we have right now. And I've got a spinning wheel of names over here with all of the attendees for the prize. If you have any other questions, speak now or forever hold your peace. I'm going to go ahead and spin my wheel right now. And Trevor here is going to announce who won our Raspberry Pi giveaway. Check the chat and we will email you tomorrow.
It's a great little device, I have to admit. I've got a couple from marketing now, and I do like them. I do like them.
Everyone loves them. Not like I can say anything. I have no idea how to use it, but I've heard great things.
Very good, very good. Well, I don't think we've got any other questions, Lisa. I was either very thorough or I put everyone to sleep. I'm not sure.
I'm going to venture to say that you were very thorough and engaging. I had a great time, and hopefully everyone else did too. And with that puts us at about exactly an hour. And Richard, I think we're about done.
I think so. So from me, thank you everybody for coming. Thank you for all those who attended, asked questions. We will be doing these on a quarterly basis and a regular basis. So we'll make sure to include you. And again, if you have any feedback, reach out, and we'll tailor these to the kinds of things that you guys want to see.
Awesome. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining. And we will see you guys next time.
All right. Thanks, everyone. Bye.